Hello, everyone. This is your host, Susan Rosen, and I have another special guest on my podcast today. Her name is Dr. Sara O'Neill, and Sara is a chiropractor. She has been in practice since 2000. That sounds funny now, huh? She's originally from Manotick, right? Manotick, Ontario, which is near Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada, in case people didn't know. A lot of people don't. She studied biology at the University of Waterloo and completed a Bachelor of Science degree. And after Waterloo, she entered the Canadian Memorial Chiropractic College and graduated as a Doctor of Chiropractic in 2000. And I'm just going to add one other thing here that she has in her bio, which is that she believes in pursuing excellence in the care of her practice members. And she has sought out training and accreditation in various disciplines, both within the chiropractic field and in related health fields, and has the highest level of certification within the Network Spinal Analysis method, which she will tell us about during our podcast. So welcome, Sara. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you, Susan. I'm super happy to be here. Yeah. So, I've always had an interest in why some people live with more vitality and longer than others. And for some reason, as a teenager, I decided I was going to live to not just 100, but 110, 115. And then I quickly realized, you got to figure out what are some things that make that journey more vital, more energy than not. And I find, I don't know if you want me to just jump right in with that or a little bit explaining about the technique that I mostly do.
Yeah, actually that might be kind of interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of people, including myself, who haven't heard of that type of.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So network spinal analysis is a low force type of chiropractic technique that looks at how the brain and spinal cord are functioning and look to optimize that function. So when someone's in pain, it's probably not functioning very well and can be helped along. Most people, when they get out of pain, they think, oh, I'm functioning really well. You probably not. There's a whole realm of optimizing where a person can be really flexible, really vital, lots of energy, more joy, more creativity, more sort of in the realm of what you might want more of in your life. And so I help clients. I actually look at the whole spectrum, helping clients get out of pain, whatever their goals are, helping clients look for what more means to them in their life. What makes me a little unique in the chiropractic field is I also I include what's called transformative coaching in my practice. Looking at, because I can do a really bang up job and send somebody out the door with a, wonderful spine. But then it's up to them to take responsibility for what are they doing day to day. And there's three main areas where people come back where they've had problems, where it creates problems again. And if people can look after those three main areas themselves or as much as they can, then somebody will be off to the races even more.
Okay.
And I'd rather have to do less than have to do more, because there's so many people in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's also, I think the other thing is too that people don't realize how much of the rest of their life, it's not just, oh, am I walking? Oh, am I,
Mhm.
what am I eating? It's everything. And I know
Yeah.
that you also, that's kind of your view
Mhm.
of how it all comes in and plays out together. Because as you said, you can fix people and send them out the door, but if life doesn't change in some other ways,
Yeah, they'll
they'll
come
be
back.
back soon. Yes.
Which, it's nice for my business.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And in this world, I think you're not going to be in danger of of not having any
Nothing
clients
to
coming
do.
in.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have clients who sometimes joke about like, oh, I wish you could just follow me around all day and, poke me on the shoulder when you see me doing or thinking something, and just like reminding me and like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that interesting, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, you can figure it out yourself.
Isn't
Yeah.
that a novel concept?
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's where they used to tell people to, put rubber bands on or something and snap
Yeah.
them whenever they noticed.
Something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get in the habit.
Yeah. You start hunching a little bit. Snap, snap, snap. It's one way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. So why don't we I think it'd be interesting just is to talk just a little bit more about the method,
Okay.
and then we can kind of, go where that kind of leads.
Yeah. Um, let's see. There's a few places I could start. It's very gentle. It's a series of light touches along the spine. So
Oh.
um, there's certain spots along the spine where touch input is received neurologically. It's like a straight line up through to the brain, and the part
Wow.
of the brain, part of the subconscious brain, mostly I would say the thalamus, which is part of our subconscious mind that does all the things behind the scenes. It checks constantly between our spine and say the fluidity of the spine and reality, or what's coming in from our senses. And so it's constantly integrating information from eyes, ears, taste, all of those five senses. And is the spine moving fluid? How are the nerves working? Can we, are we being resilient? If the spine is really rigid, that information that comes in will be filtered differently, and we'll get the message, oh, we can't handle it, that's too stressful. If our spine can handle more and we're really fluid and we have a lot of capacity, the message might be, oh yeah, that's not a problem. That doesn't need to be thought of as stressful. There's lots of situations where one person might say something was, oh, roller coasters are stressful, I can't handle it. Someone else thinks it's the most fantastic fun in the world.
Yeah.
And the fluidity or rigidity of the spine can have a lot to do with that. So network spinal analysis looks at coming along and putting in, it's really a light touch, like the weight you'd put contacts in your eye with, 3 to 5 ounces. And it's stimulating certain nerve pathways that get that part of the subconscious mind to reevaluate, and helps the spine to become more fluid. So it's basically holding up a mirror to the brain saying, look, you tightened up here, you don't need it anymore. And the spine can let it go. So that it helps open up how somebody thinks of the world. So someone might, more possibilities become available. Pain, there's less need for pain. So pain goes down. Someone's creativity might go up. Very commonly, someone might sit up after a session and say, oh, why was I so worried about that thing with my boss? That's not a big deal. I just have to send an email. but prior, when they were really tight, it looks like I don't know what to do. So light touches along the spine, helping open just everything up. Yeah.
How neat. That's
Yeah,
really
it's
interesting.
really it's fascinating.
Yeah, and I've never heard of that kind of chiropractic before.
There's people all over the world. There's probably people doing it in
sure.
almost every state, but yeah, it's not what most people think of as chiropractic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually closer to the original. In my mind. See, I'm thinking of all these chiropractors who might be watching this thing. The original developer of chiropractic, some of the same principles apply.
Okay.
He actually was more of like what we might think of as an integrative medicine or naturopath. He did a lot with diet and even hypnosis. And
wow.
He discovered that working with the spine helped a lot of physical problems, mental problems. Yeah.
Well, it makes so much sense.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it just well, we all know, if something's bothering you in your body, your day just doesn't go as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just something as simple as that.
Yeah.
And vice versa, right? Sometimes your day doesn't go well,
and then you get a pain in your body saying,
exactly.
hey.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, pain in general, I see it as a way that our bodies have of getting our attention. And what they're getting your attention about can be quite different. And that's where I often coach people in learning to listen to what I would call your own wisdom. Because I can point to things and say, okay, well, maybe you need to eat differently. Maybe you need to exercise. Maybe you need to look at your habitual patterns of worry. But exactly where a person, is going to get the best bang for their buck. If a person says to me, I think I need to eat differently, then I'll say, okay, that sounds like where you should start then, if that's sort of what's coming up for you.
Yeah.
Someone else might say something totally different. And so pain, sometimes it can be tricky with, what am I supposed to listen to?
Well, and sometimes too, just the way the body is, one thing may be hurting, but that may not be what the problem is. Right? It may be coming from some other total place. And then you make yourself, you make adjustments. Oh, I'm not going to sleep on that side, because it's been bothering me, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And pretty soon they've got about 5 different things that they've gotten out of whack.
Yeah. And our body is very smart. And we often, people in their language will talk about the body or parts of their body like they've disowned them. And that doesn't help. They'll say, oh, my bad back is acting up. Like it's a 5-year-old child that is, acting badly, and they're not listening to it. So if you think of your body part that way, it's probably going to want your attention more, like a small child that you're ignoring. Mommy. That child's going to get louder. So's your back pain, or whatever the thing is. The way we perceive our bodies often can be part of the, I don't like to say the word problem, but it's part of the ball of wax, or part of the thing.
Part of the solution.
Yes, part of the solution is listening, perceiving our bodies differently, and knowing our body is always smart. Anything it does is for a reason. we may not, it may not be, clear straight away what that reason is, but our bodies are very good at compensating one thing for another, for another, for another. And ankle pain can start because our shoulder was sitting funny, or from biomechanical points of view or postural, we can really, like, head to toe, it's all connected. Yeah.
It's funny, huh?
Yeah, imagine that.
Well, it's like, well, I'm sure somebody's saying, well, duh, that's obvious, but people don't think that way.
No.
That's where the whole holistic
Yeah.
way of medicine and treatment and whatever,
Yeah.
that's where all of that came from, because the whole medical field was, oh no, I only treat arms, oh no, I only treat legs.
Yeah, it tends to be reductionistic.
Yeah.
And there's times and levels where that is of use, because the experts in the one little thing, it takes all that focus to get that knowledge.
Yeah.
But I often talk with people about, I'll call it upstream or downstream. And so someone might say to me, well, why do I have an ulcer? Or why do I have wrist pain? So, okay, well, it depends on what level you want to look at it at. How holistically do you want to look at that?
Mm-hmm.
Ulcers are actually an easy example, because most people are aware they're linked to stress. And if you are, you think of the type A personality executive, you stress yourself into an ulcer. It's sort of classic. And so more upstream would be stress. More downstream would be, you have an ulcer because you have inflammation in your stomach. So there's a biochemistry as to why that has happened. And if you want to look at that biochemistry level, well, you might take an antacid, or to help the short term.
And I was going to say, and you think it's helping. Yeah. But anyways, we won't go there.
Well, and there is a value in the moment when you can't sleep because of a pain.
Yeah.
Okay. But then what's upstream from that? Why are you having that? Oh, well, I have inflammation. Well, why do you have inflammation? Oh, I'm stressing myself out. Okay. Well, why are you stressing yourself out? Well, I hate my job. Oh. Or various answers to that. But then often we come to, if you keep going upstream, you come to a place where we create thoughts that our body perceives as pressure or stress. And if you continually tell yourself you hate your job, well, that literally causes your musculoskeletal system to tighten up, because our brain, I find this very interesting. Our brain can't distinguish between real stress in the environment, something unfolding in front of us, like a tiger, versus us thinking about the idea of a tiger eating us. And we're very good at making those pictures in our mind, and the my boss is so terrible, or whatever the thing is that we do. Our body reacts as if it's actually happening. And if that thing was actually happening, you would want to respond that way. But if you're telling yourself 24/7 the same story, your body's going to wear out pretty quickly. And then when you go, further downstream, somebody's going to look at your, I don't know, your stomach and say, well, you have an ulcer.
Surprise.
And you can go up and down with almost any symptom like that. And so I often tell people, well, how holistic do you want to get? Like, where do you want to look? And some people, it surprises me. Some people aren't maybe ready to go, or they don't, Yeah, and there's various reasons why someone might say, "Oh, I don't want to change how I'm eating," or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it depends on how bad that pain is, right?
hmm yeah,
If it's just middling and it just bothers them occasionally, maybe they say, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm ready yet to,
yeah. Oh wait.
yeah, till it gets really bad.
Yeah, depending on what it is, it's easier to take care of things with the small. It's like your body's tapping, giving you a little
Uh-huh.
nudge, like, hey, 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 pay attention, rather
Yeah.
than screaming out loud. With many things, when you get to the screaming out loud level, you have a certain amount of tissue damage.
Mm.
That, yes, I've seen a lot of things heal that really aren't supposed to heal.
Mm.
But it's less, it's easier. I always tell people it's so much easier over here. Do yourself a favor, just pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, I mean, the picture that comes to mind for me is when you get a little bit of a leak in your roof,
Yes.
right? And you go,
Yeah.
well, it's not that much right now. I can just put a little tile
Bucket.
underneath it for right now. And when the winter's over, I'll fix it,
Yeah.
right? Well, but at that point, it may cost you 10 times as much or 50 times as much
Yeah.
because of all the other damage
Yeah.
that
Oh
it's
yeah. You
not
might
that's
now
now
have a
caused.
mold problem and you need
Yeah,
mold remediation or
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, because it is interesting. I don't know if that's a human condition that we're like until it really gets up in our face and hits us over the head, literally or figuratively,
Mm.
that a lot of times people just don't want to deal with it.
There's different, some people don't, some people take care of things earlier.
Mm,
There's different reasons. Some people don't want to, um I was going to say some people don't want to hear the bad news. um
yeah.
but that's not necessarily true. Yeah, that'd be very individual.
Yeah, or they don't want to change
hmm
some particular part of their life, right?
Or they think it means things. Actually, yeah, that feels more true. It would be, well, that means I'm like my father, or they think it means like it's, or oh, it means it's very difficult, and I won't be able to do X, Y, or Z, so I might as well not bother.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. So we were talking a little bit before
hmm
before we got on the recording, but having to do with um, people getting older, people, since the podcast is about after 50,
Yeah.
it's plus or minus 50. But, well, things happen earlier sometimes to,
Oh yeah, I laugh because
yeah,
I often talk with people about this sort of thing, definitely over 40.
yeah,
Yeah, but from a biological standpoint, like ourselves, 30 is the age where things just
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, and for women in well,
Men
I'll say
too.
that
They
men too,
they have
because they have
different things.
andropause,
Yeah,
and then women have menopause, um,
yeah.
and that's huge to our
Mhm.
bodies. I mean, we can do it easily, or we can do it not so easily, but it's still a big change.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, anyways, if you want to take the lead on that and talk about some of the things that we had talked about. I was just trying to look if I can find it.
Well, I was talking about how as people age, I see there's three main things. If you look at how you move, how you eat, and how you think, that will get you an awful long way. It came to mind, there's a phrase, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Yes.
And that is so true. And it's more true the older you get. I see it in small ways with people. So if just ranges of motion, which I mean, seems kind of boring, but a common one that people lose is the ability to tip their head to the side and stretch there. Oh, you're very good. That seems to go first. So I'll often tell people to stretch in certain ways, or looking at what they're good at and what they're not good at. But any natural range of motion of the body, if you don't do it over time, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
That's actually partly the brain loves efficiency. And so if you never, do this, your brain will say, oh, I guess her life doesn't need her to do that. That takes too much energy. We'll just solidify her neck. So we'll take that off the table.
That sounds nasty. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But then as well, the good news is if you notice something where you can't do something, I often tell people the physio for it, or the fix for it, is to slowly work at, you can regain things. It just usually takes longer than people want. But you figure out, okay, so I realized I can't tip, maybe the furthest I can get is 5 degrees. Okay, you do that a few times every day. And then, oh, look, now I'm going 10 degrees. And you just go a little more and a little more and a little more. Okay. Some people might say to me, oh, I can't get down to put my socks on anymore, or I can't touch my toes. Well, okay, what can you do? How far down can you get? And do that, make sure you do that. And then you go like 1 degree more every day. And your brain will start to go, oh, I guess her life includes getting down to the floor. Okay. Sounds funny, but yeah.
Yeah. No, but it makes so much sense, because that's how we approach everything else. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, learning something, or I don't know, learning a new language, or whatever.
You're not going to learn Italian in a day, or at least most people don't.
Yeah, exactly. It all, well, and it all makes so much sense, because like you say, it's all connected. It's all, and there's been a lot of discussion, I guess if you want to call it that, and articles and things written about how the microbiome is even more important than your brain, because it actually tells your brain what to think and what to do.
Yeah.
We've all been excuse me, trained to think that our brain is running everything, and it's like wrong again.
Yeah, it's more of like a network effect, and it's an interesting thought to think almost that we're like these robots that these bacteria in our gut drive around.
Yes, I love that.
Tell the brain, and the brain tells the bacteria. There's a researcher, she's unfortunately passed away now, but Dr. Candace Pert.
I've heard
when I was in school, I learned about her work, because she was the first person to find the neuropeptides in the brain that cause us to feel emotion. And some of her very groundbreaking research that still most people aren't aware of, is that the receptors, so the things on our cells that allow us to feel emotions, the receptors are found not just in the brain, but all through our gut. And actually at higher concentrations in our gut.
Mhm.
So we literally feel emotion in our gut, in our heart, and up and through the spine. The entire spine is full of these neuropeptides and receptors. And all three of those are higher concentrations than the brain. So it's most commonly thought that we feel emotion, it's in our brain, you know, you feel sad, happy, whatever. But it's literally the combination of spine, gut, heart, and then the brain. I think the brain is more of a coordinator than an actual originator. It integrates a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Because
gut, the gut, the impact of the gut cannot be understated. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember what the number was, but
It's like
something like, what is it, like 100? There are, right. So there are messages going up and down, but there's like 100 or 1,000 times more going up than there are coming down.
Yes. I
Which
don't know
kind
the
of tells
exact
you who's
number. I
in
think you've
charge.
read more
but
than I have.
it's some humongous amount. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because we all have this view of how we are beings.
I think we're top down.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then one of my other three things, what you eat or what comes into your body, even like things through your skin, for example, like lotions you put on, you know, chemicals and things like that have a big effect on the body and on that microbiome. When that gets disrupted, we get a lot of inflammation. Inflammation over time. Inflammation is meant as a short-term healing response. It's part of our response for if you tear a tendon, for example, you want inflammation to heal that up. It's also a big part of our immune system. And it tends to be, there's a really useful short-term things. But for example, if you're eating in ways that irritate your bowel, or if you eat a lot of sugar, it's going to create long-term, what we call systemic inflammation. And that over time degrades the cells in your body. And depending on a number of other factors, down the road, you'll eventually get a diagnosis if you have too much inflammation. For some people, it could turn into diabetes. Someone else, it might be osteoarthritis. And inflammation, because it's something very useful, you can't have no inflammation.
Right.
It's reducing it, and so that it doesn't get out of control. But stress, for example, creates inflammation in the body because our body thinks there's something we have to defend against or heal. But stress tends to be the way we think about things. So those three things: eat, move, think, inflammation. They intertwine together.
Yeah.
And
I think the lesson from all of that as well is that what we think is of as cause and effect is kind of a little different in reality than it is in how we think it was, you know, how we were brought up to think.
And some I'm laughing because I'm trying to think of an example, but there's so many. People often say to me things like, oh, I just had some x-rays and I found out I now have arthritis. And they talk about it as if it's something that just sort of happened yesterday. But arthritis is at least it's minimum a 30-year process.
Oh,
It's a long process, and depending on which type, it's a slightly different. But it comes down to, how are you thinking? How are you moving? How are you eating? And people, yeah, the people think things just happen out of the blue.
yeah,
No, it has nothing to do with the way I've been living my life for the last 30 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or they think, oh, well, now that I'm 50,
Mm.
I will start getting this and that, and this and that, my joints and my, you know.
And it's not bad, because at any age you can turn things around, or you can say, okay, now that
Yeah.
I'm 70, I'm going to start doing the things that I know I should do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The earlier one starts, the better. It's kind of like investing.
There you go.
Finances.
Okay.
The earlier you start saving, the better. But I would, again, people often say to me, "Oh, I'm 85. It's too late."
Yeah.
No, no. The body has an amazing resilience and regenerative capacity, and I'm always amazed by it. So, yeah, it's never too late, and the earlier you start, the better.
So one thing that kind of comes to mind that I've been noticing with a lot of people that I know, men and women, as they get older, is, and I know I do this to a certain degree as well, is we start to kind of hunch
Mm-hmm.
over. Why?
Yeah.
Why do we do that? I mean,
So,
what's changed in our
yeah,
in our bodies that's
it's a few factors. We in my world, we call that a defense posture. And so if your brain thinks that the world is stressful, your head will come forward and it lowers your center of gravity and you hunch. And from a survival standpoint, you're literally better able to fight, like physically fight off a tiger, like survive. And the longer you've been on the planet for, the more small things add up. And so when you're younger, the brain can be more resilient and think, oh, okay. And I was talking about that checking between the spine and the brain, are things stressful?
Yeah.
When you're 20, you have a lot more flexibility, a lot more hormones, a lot more everything. So the answer, when your brain's checking, the answer a lot more often is going to be, no, we're good, we're good, we're good. As you get older, things lose that flexibility a little bit unless you work at it. So more and more, the answer subconsciously becomes, nope, we can't handle it, too much. And our brain does us a favor by getting us ready to handle the stressful world and goes forward. As well, I was talking about how the brain likes efficiency. So if that happens repeatedly, the brain will say, oh, we're just going to keep the person in the hunched over posture because their life needs that. And then the way the little ligaments between the spine work, those shorten and your muscles shorten. And so then over time as well, some muscles in the front will shorten and get tight, and the muscles in the back will weaken. So now over time, you literally can't, or it's more difficult to bring yourself up because you don't have the muscle tone to do it anymore. So it's a slow process of habit. But it is the starting thing of it is it's part of how our brain protects us from a stressful environment. And if you go more, why does it think it has to do that? More gesturing that way, but upstream was that way. Anyway, it's how we think of the world. And if we think, if we're constantly you can hear it in your language if you notice how you talk to others, and are you always complaining about something and oh rah, 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 rah. Or are you talking more openly or about possibilities? Those are kind of two extremes. Most people are a little in the middle. How you think about the world around you will have an effect on your posture. Once a person is hunched and finds it difficult to straighten up, then changing how you think is very useful, but also stretching the tight muscles and strengthening the other muscles. So there's lots of videos online, like posture exercises. Tons of good things out there. Strengthening one's core. Most people know, oh, that's a good thing to do, but they have no idea how to do it. Again, you can, if you have a health professional, you can ask them, what's your favorite strengthening core exercise? Or you can look it up on YouTube these days. There's some really fantastic ones. But yeah, the core part of your body keeps you upright.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Is it also, I know I remember I don't know, a number of years ago when I was going to the gym, and I would talk to the trainers and stuff sometimes, obviously before COVID, but there are some gyms open now.
Depends on where you are in the world, I suppose.
And they used to always say as well that if you're going to strengthen, you need to strengthen both sides. Right? So if you just work on the muscles here, like you were saying, then they tend to pull. You have to work on the muscles in the back as well, so that they take you, straight up as opposed to one way.
You need a balance, and often when people have that hunched forward posture, change my screen here, your shoulders will come forward, so these pectoral muscles are shortened and too tight. Well, if you start strengthening those, they're gonna do more. So you need to start by stretching them and strengthening the back. That's kind of more like a rowing motion. Or for some people, the strengthening is literally just practicing being more upright.
To sit up. I know I have that problem.
And bringing your shoulder blades down and in goes a long way. I always tell people shoulder blades down and in. And you're kind of contracting just above your waist. A lot of people try to do this, but that just makes it worse.
Oh yeah, no, I'm always trying to get my shoulders to go down.
So opening the front, strengthening the back, and then once this opens, then you can look at strengthening that. But
is a lot of that coming from us spending so much time in front of the computers?
Yes. I could say a lot about it, but short answer is absolutely. All the devices we use nowadays tend to bring us more forward. I've started seeing, for sure last 5 years, probably a bit longer, from phones and texting on the phone, people bring their head forward a lot. I've seen degeneration in the spine in 18-year-olds that I would have never seen. I used to see that starting maybe age 60.
Wow.
And I see it now in older teenagers because they've spent so many years with their head forward. And again, it's because our bodies are smart. And our bodies say, well, if you're going to spend your whole day with your head forward, we're just going to crush those vertebrae down a little bit so you don't have to bother with ever being straight. Oh, well, it'll just make it easier for you to do this all the time.
You don't have to strain and feel stressed after you've done it.
If you're going to live your whole life forward, then you probably have an extra vertebrae that you don't actually need. So we're going to, and And it seems bananas, but that's,
No, it seems very logical. It
yeah,
seems very logical.
yeah.
You know, it's so funny
So
because we all
from
talk about strengthening our brains, and that's
yeah,
what our, that's what
yeah.
it's doing.
From any standpoint, like any physical thing you do for a long time during the day, whether it's head forward because you're at your phone, or I used to work in a town where there was a car assembly factory, and so a lot of my clients were on the line assembling cars, and they each job was different, but each person, it was one motion all day long. So they might have a drill and be going rah, 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 and that person. So if there's something you do a lot of in the day, I always tell people, make sure you figure out and do whatever the opposite is for a while. So that the phone, device, computer thing is, you want to straighten up and even go backwards and stretch yourself out backwards. And so if you're shortening the front, you want to strengthen the back, lengthen the front. So you do the opposite. For the factory worker people, sometimes it's a little trickier. There's a compound motion, figuring out, okay, well, what's the opposite? But yeah, getting them to stretch out and strengthen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we have been on for a while, so I think we probably should wrap this up.
Okay. Very fun to
But
talk.
I would love to have you back on. There's just so much to talk about.
Yeah. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll set something up for a chapter 2.
Okay.
So thank you, Sara. Really appreciate your time and your knowledge.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I always have to say at the end of these, I am not a doctor, even though Sara is, but this is not to be taken as medical advice. And if you are having any kinds of issues, please go and see your own doctor. And needless to say, if you have an emergency, go to the emergency room. Thank you again, Sara, and I will see all of you next week.